Oh, nearly at all. Okay. Same. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Africa Agri Tech Conference. Before we get started, I'd like to please ask everyone to take their seats, and the program will resume in about 5 to 10 minutes. If everybody can please take their seats, and the program will resume as soon as everyone has been seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we will commence the program in about 5 minutes. Quite a few delegates still streaming into the building. So in roughly 5 minutes, we will start the program. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, before we start the program, we're going to look at a short video of what you can expect over the next few days at the Africa Agri Tech Conference and Expo. Good morning, everyone. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of our delegates and invited guests to the very first Africa Agri Tech Conference. My name is Roseanne McKenzie, and I have the pleasure and the privilege of being here today to guide you along the rest of today's program. Obviously, today would not have been made possible without our sponsors and endorsing partners, so I'd like to give a warm and very, very grateful thank you to Agri, Growbank, and John Deere for making this event possible. Today, you can look forward to a full program of topics and innovators in the agricultural technology sector who will share their knowledge and experience with us. But first, we're going to kick off with the long-awaited official launch of the Agricultural Development Agency. To facilitate this milestone event, I would like to hand over to Leona Archery, the head of agriculture at Biogen Africa. And as Leona goes up to join us, let's take a look at the Agricultural Development Agency launch video.
South Africa is a country with magnificent riches, with treasures that should be shared by everyone. Introducing the Agricultural Development Agency, an initiative that aims to achieve exactly that. Significant funds and resources have been allocated to establish new commercial farmers, but this needed to be aligned. The Agricultural Development Agency is not a government agency, but part of the Public-Private Growth Initiative, which was established in April 2018. Through an extensive process of consultation since September 2018 with all agriculture stakeholders, from government to smallholder farmers, it became clear that common ground existed on all sides, but this needed to be aligned.
What we have seen over the last number of months is that the common ground could be stabilized, and that on the basis of that we could actually grow. The need for and the understanding that we need a body or an agency, as it came out, that could address both the needs of existing farmers but also new farmers in such a way that the land issue is also being addressed.
The purpose of the Agricultural Development Agency is twofold. Firstly, to create funding opportunities for new farmers, and secondly, to transfer skills from existing farmers to others. AGDA will play a facilitating role in these relationships.
So funding for this particular entity, and obviously we've been in extensive consultation with various funders over the last 18 months, will come primarily from the private sector. Government itself is not intended to put in any funding into this agency, but rather to assist from much more a policy or regulatory environment in helping us to unblock certain areas so that private sector investment can flow into particular projects.
Anyone in agriculture, from the smallholder farmer to the multinational agribusiness, can contribute to the Agricultural Development Agency, and in this way get the much needed support for development initiatives. Being private sector managed, the agency won't overreach its means, and only qualifying farmers and projects will be supported, especially starting off. But as confidence and finances grow, so too will its impact and reach. Gloria Sirobe, one of the leading inspirations and contributors to the creation of AGDA, remarked, "The Agricultural Development Agency must have a well-developed social conscience, and it must be institutionalized in a manner that will ensure it is always dedicated to such imperatives." The ultimate goal of the Agricultural Development Agency is to assist every developing farmer to do better, to ensure sustainable land reform and regional food security. Let us work together for sustainability.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and as Rosanna said, welcome to this event that we are hosting today as part of the Africa Agri Tech Conference, launching of the long-awaited Agricultural Development Agency. So good morning to Mr. Ruth Mayer, Mr. Rudy Dix from the Presidency, all our partners at ITI, our various farmers, farmer organizations, commodity organizations, and all our stakeholders who have worked tirelessly with us over the last 24-odd months to get us to this point. And what a historic moment this is for agriculture in South Africa as we launch an agency that can help support transformation within the agricultural sector, but more specifically, support government in achieving its aims of developing black farmers in South Africa. So to begin, I'd like to call upon Mr. Ruth Mayer, who is the director of ITI, but as you know, a well-known figure who has been driving transformation in our country. He has also been part of a team that has been leading the Public-Private Growth Initiative together with Johan van Zyl, and has been the champion behind the Agricultural Development Agency. A warm welcome for Mr. Ruth Mayer.
Thank you, Leona. And before I go any further, I would like to congratulate Leona because we recently decided to appoint her as the acting CEO of the Agricultural Development Agency. She's a person that comes from deep experience on the government side in public service, had been Deputy Director General of the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform, also acting DG in that department, and the last few years she spent in private sector. And I think with the wealth of experience that she brings, this agency will flourish. Congratulations, Leona. We're very happy that you are available for this task. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this launching event. Thank you very much for your presence and your participation here this morning. I think this is a dream for many of us. We started off talking many years ago at the broad level with many farmers across the country in all the regions, representing all commodities, who expressed the desire to come forward and support the idea of establishing something that could actually look and take care of the need for bringing more farmers, new farmers, to the agricultural space. At the same time, we had the opportunity to consult widely with those that aspire to become commercial farmers and who have not had the opportunity to do so before. So the Agricultural Development Agency is about a number of things. Firstly, as you have seen, to help emerging new farmers, to support them where possible with the necessary funding, but also very importantly to transfer the skills and to support them to become effective and successful commercial farmers. It also addresses the need for a practical way to find answers to the land reform subject in South Africa. I don't have to go into the challenges that we have experienced so far as a country, but it's ongoing. And even if we find changes to legislation, including the Constitution on the subject, the need will still remain, and that is how to make sure that South Africa is a country that produces not only food for itself, but also live up to the expectation of exports. And that can only be done if we use our land profitably for the sake of so many South Africans that would really like to participate. So this is the aim, and this is what we have strived to achieve, and that is why today is so important. I would like to thank so many of you who are in the audience who have participated so far, not only in the consultations and who have given advice, but also actively supported the process of consultation, led by Malcolm Ferguson, Leona Archery, and a number of others who are in the audience. This became a very effective dream, successfully achieved today. So we also have some of the farmers on the stage who participated and gave advice. Kali Skuma, Nick Serfontein, but there are others in the audience who've done the same over this period of time. I would like to thank all of them for their support. I would like to thank Hans Seidel Foundation for their support in recent times in enabling us and giving the necessary financial backup in many different ways. I would also like to especially say thank you to Rudy Dix from the Presidency, who is here with us this morning. Unfortunately, the Minister of Agriculture, Thoko Didiza, at the last minute had to cancel her presence here. She was called upon by the President to be at the meeting at Tuinhuis in Cape Town this morning. Some of us, including myself, had also been invited to that meeting because it's in the context of the Public-Private Growth Initiative. I had to decline that invitation by the President and said to him, I want to be with the farmers. I'm very happy that I can be here today. But Rudy, thank you very much for your presence. And I'm looking forward to hearing the support that the government is going to give us on an ongoing basis. And while I touch on that, just one comment about it. When we established the idea, when we started to consult, the purpose all the time was to form a public-private partnership with government on this agency. The idea was to say to government, we don't want funding. We're not going to aspire from government to contribute. But we would like to establish a partnership through which we can ensure that there's ongoing participation by government also in giving guidance and direction. That would have entailed a memorandum of understanding with government, and it would have involved a number of different government departments. In the end, very recently, in our discussions with the minister, it was then jointly decided between her and us that it will be better to go ahead on a private membership basis with the agency. In other words, we will go ahead as a membership organization, as it was established so far. It will be privately driven, as you have heard, and we will consult with government as and when necessary on specific projects. This will lead to probably service level agreements when necessary in terms of specific projects, but it will remain a private organization driven by private individuals. That, to our mind, would produce the best result. And after consultation, we found it very acceptable on both ends that we proceed on that basis. But as you will see soon, not only from the presentation by Rudy when he speaks, but also from the minister herself in the video clip that you will soon see, we have the full support of the government because it is part of the public-private growth initiative. And just to remind you, the public-private growth initiative is there to ensure full-time cooperation between the private sector on a sectoral basis with government, also in removing inhibitors on government side when necessary. And like it was said, we have established this initiative close to 2 years ago. It's been working very successfully. At this point of time, we have more than 20 sectors of the economy participating in this project. We worked it out in very close cooperation with Rudy and his colleagues from the Department of Monitoring and Evaluation at the time. Now it's fully under the presidency and in cooperation with the Department of Trade and Industry. So this project, the agency, the Agricultural Development Agency, forms part of this total initiative, like I said, in which more than 20 sectors participate, of which agriculture was one of the original sectors that we brought into this initiative, and the success is there already to display. Thank you very much again for your presence here. I hope you will enjoy this, but most importantly, and Malcolm is going to speak more about this, we have already 36 founder members who have signed up. Their signatures are all on that board. After Malcolm has spoken, we would like to invite more of you also to sign up as founding members of this agency. And that is one of the reasons why we are all here today to celebrate this moment. Thank you very much, Leona.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayer. And there you have it. There's been a journey that we have followed with various stakeholders to get us to the point that we are at. And as indicated, at the moment, our country faces many challenges in the economy. And we all know that agriculture can play a fundamental role in creating jobs and assisting to drive this economy forward. Now, I would like to call upon Mr. Rudy Dix, who is here from the presidency. Rudy is currently heading the project management office in the presidency and has been in government for a number of years, having led various departments, including being part of planning, monitoring, and evaluation. And Rudy then will discuss with us why is this agency so important and what role does it play in supporting government. Let's welcome Rudy Dix.
Thanks so much, Leonie. Ruth, I think the PPGI team has done an amazing job. Now, this is as a result of a strong partnership that's developed, as Ruth had spoken about. I was very fortunate to be part of that initial engagement when the PPGI had started. So it's amazing, and I think they definitely deserve. This shows that private sector in cooperation with government can do things and achieve under very difficult circumstances, the kind of intervention which they set out as a commitment, which is the formation of the Agricultural Development Agency. And finally today we can say, well, you know, even though we'll probably come along, Leonie, right? So I saw you saying that government felt that it's a private sector initiative. It's okay, right? Full support from the presidency, full support from government in the formation of this. So perhaps just another round of applause to Leonie, Ruth, Malcolm. I know Ivo over here also, and some of the other colleagues on an amazing job that we can finally get this going. So as I've said, I mean, I was part of the initial process with Ruth. We set out a number of tasks, very difficult tasks. But what was nice about it, it wasn't the kind of business as usual approach where, you know, we sit in NEDLAC, government sits with organized business, and there's community constituencies, labor. In actual fact, we fundamentally took a very different approach. And that approach was we brought in the most senior people from government, which was the ministers, including the president, and we brought in the most senior leadership from different sectors. And that was CEOs from firms. So not business representatives. And I think that fundamentally gave it a very different shape to how we normally engage with social partners and how we engage with industry. And that kind of conversation meant that we could do very specific interventions. And so, of course, out of that, we were able to deal with a number of projects listed. I think initially we have about 40, over 40 projects, many of them in different phases of development. This is one of the first projects that can actually be ticked off by the PPGI group with government successfully. But it also got a bit of impetus. So what was nice when it was initially conceptualized, and Malcolm will talk a little bit more about that, was that we were able to place it into the Job Summit. And if colleagues over here, you know, listen to the president, he speaks regularly about this on a public platform, he mentioned it again in Sona, that he's taken quite seriously the Job Summit commitments. One of those commitments was the actual formation of the Agricultural Development Agency in the Job Summit. And because the president had said, look, you know what, you guys, I understand what happens in NEDLAC. Sometimes these conversations is very difficult. I want to meet with you once a month to track those particular commitments. I want to meet with all social partners. I have 2 hours in the morning from 8 o'clock till 10 o'clock, and I want to get updates on the specific reports. And so, of course, in that kind of arrangement, we were able to make quite a number of tractions. We were able to deal with a lot of issues around water use license, which is a big problem for farmers as it is. We were able to deal with critical skills visas. We were able to deal with the ADA and get the departments on board, and a long conversation and a very difficult conversation. But I think that's been quite an important area to be able to get traction on this. So congratulations to the team that has put this together. And we are fully committed, as I've mentioned. We are working with you to make sure that even though it's a private sector initiative, that there's full partnership, cooperation, and potentially the fund may evolve into something very different where government considers to put in some form of capital at a later stage. But as Ruth mentioned and Leonie mentioned also, this is a start of giving effect to the kind of transformation. And that's quite critical. In the PPGI, what we did talk about was, firstly, what would make businesses, what would make a CEO, you know, take a decision to invest? And when we asked that question, many of them said, well, we're prepared to invest, we're prepared to do a lot of things, but we have a number of inhibitors. And Ruth speaks about those inhibitors. And some of them relate to a wide variety of different things that impacted on the sector. And part of the 2-year journey with the in-transformation team who has been leading the PPGI with Nick Benedel and Dr. Johan van Zyl from Toyota SA was to fundamentally shift those inhibitors, deal with them, and kill them in a sense. You know, we don't want to talk about water use license. The president had mentioned it in the SONA, for example, that we were fully committed and we're going to operationalize that water use license should take not more than 90 days, right? Those are one of them. Ports and rails is another thing that we're working on. Visas, for example, the ADA. So these were important areas that when CEOs were asked what would be important for us if we were to invest money. And that's the kind of conversation and engagement that we have. It's a constant conversation. It's an iterative process. It's designed to be able to deal with blockages as we go. And I'm privileged also to stand here because this is exactly the reason why the president set up the project management office. So as the head of the project management office, one of the 3 functions and objective of the Project Management Office is exactly to focus on dealing with many of those blockages. And we've been having constant conversations on how we can deal with that. So in closure, I think this is a very important event. As I said, it sets the scene for the Agricultural Development Agency, a private sector initiative in very difficult circumstances, as we pointed out, very low economic growth, where in the agricultural sector, transformation has been put clear on the agenda, where ADA is fundamentally going to support black farmers and emerging farmers to get into the agricultural space, to get into markets, to be able to export their products, to move up the value chain, and I think this is very, very important. So thank you so much again for inviting me, and on behalf of government, very welcome and amazing work that you've done. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rudy, for those words of support, and really putting into context then the role between government and AGDA as we move forward. Now, as we've also indicated, the minister cannot be with us here today, and I know that some of us may be disappointed, but remember that we have had several engagements, as Mr. Mayer has pointed out, with government up to this point at where we are right now. And the departments that we've engaged include National Treasury, DTI, COGTA, and various others, and obviously Department of Agriculture, Rural Development and Land Reform, because of the critical role they will play in terms of agriculture in our country. So Minister Didiza really wanted to be with us here today, but technology allows her to actually give you the message of support that she wanted to. So right now, I will play you a short snippet of a speech that has been pre-recorded by Minister Didiza, who really wanted to share this day with U.S. farmers, with U.S. commodity organizations, and with stakeholders in the sector, and give her support for the work that is going to be done by AGDA in terms of sustainable land reform in our country. Let me hand over to the team for the clip from Minister Didiza.
Chairperson of the program, Chairperson of the Agricultural Development Agency, and all the panel members present, as well as the executive of AGDA, invited guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is an honor and privilege that today we witness yet another initiative where private sector is engaged in agricultural development in our country. This follows a call that was made by President Ramaphosa to the industry and communities in general to work with government in solving the challenges that we are facing today with regards to our economy. That was 2018. Following that call by the President, a number of private sector individuals, including agribusiness and farmers, came together to actually work out a plan in which they can work with government in resolving agricultural and land reform issues that our country faces today. That process led to the formation of an agency known as Agricultural Development Agency. We as government, we want to welcome this initiative, appreciating of course that it is an addition to a variety of structures that are there in the form of organized agriculture in South Africa, in the many facets at national level, represented by organized agriculture, such as African Farmers Union of South Africa, AFASA, the National African Farmers Union, Agri SA, TLU, and many others which are in the provinces and regions. These are important instruments around which those who are involved in agriculture mobilize themselves for the betterment of the sector. AGDA, as it is known as Africa Development Agency, has also brought in some of this organization as well as individuals in the financial sector, in the agribusiness, to actually work together to find a way in which they, individually and collectively, can partner with government on the issues of agriculture and land reform. We do know that in our country we still have got the challenges of land inequity that does not enable all those who are willing to be producers to participate in the agricultural economy. These are some of the constraints that government have been trying to resolve through the land reform process. We are all aware that though government has been doing what it could in releasing land to farmers through the restitution process, through the redistribution as well as tenure reform, part of the challenge that we've had is the lack of settlement support to assist those who have received land to farm it productively. It is in this area that, as the Minister responsible for Agriculture, Rural Development and Land Reform in South Africa, see organized agriculture and other agencies such as AGDA working together with government to give the necessary support that is required. The other issue that African farmers, black farmers, big and small, have raised is the challenges of financing agriculture in our country. While we appreciate that we do have financial institutions and development financial institutions such as the Land Bank, it is actually not enough in terms of covering the gap that is there. In some instances, while farmers do have access in loan financing for acquisition of land, there is not enough products that can actually cover the range of farm sizes that we have in South Africa to be able to make it productive. So it is an area, in my view, that those participants who are part of AGDA in the financial sector should actually work with government in finding solutions to address this problem. The other matter that relates to financial services, it's about insurance for agriculture. This is important in my view. While I do not underestimate the role of Senvest and other entities that give short-term insurance packages, we need to think more broadly, because as climate change is upon us, we will need to find a way in which farmers themselves can also put resources aside to support their enterprises. The other issue that, in my view, is critical at the moment, it's how do we share the expertise to strengthen our biosecurity in the agricultural sector. We've seen the impact of foot and mouth in Limpopo, as well as African swine fever that affected in 2019 areas such as Gauteng, Northwest and Mpumalanga, has had an impact in our economy. It is these areas where we need to hold each other's hands and find better way in which we can strengthen our biosecurity system in South Africa. It is important for all of us to welcome the implementation of the African free trade area, which will be kicking in July 2020. And this happens at the time at which our president, Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, is going to be the chair of the African Union. As we all know, that agriculture is one of the important pillars of our economy. It is incumbent upon the sector to look at how we can improve better relations with government to ensure that indeed we take advantage of this free trade area that is going to open up for goods of our agricultural sector into the rest of our continent. We continue to open markets for agricultural goods in other parts of the world, in the Middle East, in East Asia. I must say that in this regard, we do feel the pain and share in the pain of the people of the Republic of China following the outbreak of coronavirus. Because while this has affected a number of citizens in and outside China, it poses also a challenge in slowing down the economy, particularly with regards to trade. It will also have an impact even in our country, particularly that it's one of those areas that we trade with on commodities such as beef, such as fruits, and it is our hope that the World Health Organization working with the People's Republic of China and all of us globally, manage this virus and ensure that it doesn't have a long-term adverse effects, both to the human life as well as in trade.